Hey there, third grade crew. We're back taking a few champion artist notes in our sketchbook. So if you grab a pencil and your notes, that would be excellent. Quick review, portrait is an artwork that includes a person or animal. And today we are going to focus on something different, which is a landscape. A landscape is an outside scene that has a foreground in the front, middle ground in the middle, and a background in the back. So outside scene is a landscape. Interior would be inside. But outside has foreground in the front, middle ground in the middle, background in the back. So F for foreground, F for front. Middle, middle, back, back. And if you flip it over, we have a horizon line. Horizon line is where the blank meets the blank in a landscape. So again, landscape is outside scene. It's where the sky meets the land. So now that we're professional artists, we can't just have a blue stripe at the top of our paper for the sky and a green stripe at the bottom of the paper for the ground or the grass, because we know when we look outside our windows or are outside in nature ourselves, we don't see just a blank white space in the middle. The sky comes all the way down and touches the ground. And it touches the ground way off in the distance at the horizon line. That horizon line is there because our Earth is round, so you only see as far as your eye will allow you before the sky and ground just kind of meet together in the middle. So that's the horizon line. So in a picture, your horizon line might be here in the middle, or it could be lower, but your sky goes all the way down to that horizon line. All right, now we're going to get super professional on you. Atmospheric perspective. Oh man, that's a crazy word. Objects in our foreground in the front are closer to you, so they appear bigger. So if you look outside right now, in fact, I'm here at Oakview, so I'm looking out my window. I see the playground equipment. That looks a lot bigger to me than the trees off in the distance. But if they were next to each other, that tree would be way bigger than our playground equipment. It's just the playground equipment is closer to me, so it looks bigger. The trees are way further back in the background and farther away, so they look smaller. So that's atmospheric perspective. So things closer, bigger. Things in the middle ground are medium, so medium with an M, middle ground, M as well. Things in the background are far away, so they appear smaller. We can only see so many things up close. So objects in the foreground are also going to have clearer details, brighter colors, because things close to us are easier to see. So think about it as if you take your glasses off, like me, if you wear glasses, my goodness, you can only see the details up close, not far away. Things far away at the horizon line are going to seem less detailed and a little lighter and colored. So, wild stuff, intense stuff, professional stuff, but I know you can handle it. So you can pause and take your notes, and then you can get out a piece of paper. We're going to do a little fall landscape, a mini landscape here. And right now my paper is in portrait style, which means the vertical, up and down way, but for landscape style, we want to flip it horizontally because landscape is horizontal, like this. And you're going to need a pencil first, but then you're also going to need markers, washable markers. So don't get out your Sharpies right now. Those are permanent markers. You need washable markers. I have my Crayolas here. There's different brands, but just make sure it's a washable marker. We're going to learn atmospheric perspective with our markers and first with our pencil. So you're going to create that horizon line where the sky meets the ground. We're going to put it pretty close to the middle. And we're also going to have a gently rolling line because in nature you don't have perfect angles all the time, so we wouldn't get out a ruler right now. We're just going to use our arm to guide us across the paper lightly. So my horizon line is almost straight, but I kind of have a curve in it like that. Then we're going to show foreground, middle ground, background by adding in some trees first. So our foreground tree is going to look the biggest because it's going to be closest to us. So I'm going to start with a little tuft of grass right here, close to the bottom, the foreground, closer to us. I'll zoom in so you can see. I'll draw a little darker here. And that tree trunk is going to go up and go past the horizon line. And it's going to branch off and even look as if it's going off my page. So I have some branches here. I have my trunk come down to the tuft of grass, and then I'll just kind of brush in some leaves. So just little texture lines. Nothing fancy. Alright, but see how it goes off the page? This one's closest to us, it looks big. Then you're going to pick somewhere in the middle ground, in the middle. So between your horizon line and the bottom of the paper, kind of find a halfway point for the middle ground. Again, a little tuft of grass. This middle ground tree is going to go in the middle of your bottom of the paper in the horizon line, and then in the middle of the sky and the top of the paper. So smack dab in the middle, medium size. Again, you can get some different branches going off there. Get your trunk in there, and then you got some leaves. Nothing perfect, just kind of a organic shape. Then you're going to make one that's closer to the horizon line. In real life, this tree might even be your tallest, but you won't know until you go and measure it, because this one is so far away, it looks teeny tiny. So I just have a tree coming up. It's not going to be as tall as your middle ground tree. It's surely not going to be taller than your foreground tree. But I have some branches. I have some leaves. There we go. We have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And then even further off in the distance, we're going to make a little tree line. So if you've ever gone to the woods, maybe you're a hunter, maybe you've just explored and hiked in nature, we're going to kind of make just a squiggly line off in the distance. We have some woods back here, and actually, I see some woods out my window at Oakview here. So I'm just kind of drawing some funky leaf shapes off in the background. Alright, another way to show foreground, middle ground, background, and going toward the horizon line, things get smaller. We're going to make like a little river or a little sidewalk, or you can do both. I might do both here. So you're going to start with a line at the very bottom, so the foreground closest to us. I'm going to just curve a line that goes back and stops at the horizon line. So don't have your river or sidewalk going up into the sky. That'd be kind of surreal, not like real life. We're trying to be realistic. So I curve that line, then I'm going to have a similar line, but it's going to look like it gets closer together and skinnier as it goes back toward the horizon line. So I'm going to start over here, I'm going to curve around, and then as it gets closer to the horizon line, it almost touches, like that. I'm going to do one over here too, so if this is my river, maybe I'll have a sidewalk alongside, like a little trail. I'll kind of have a similar shape. Maybe it winds more this way at the end. So again, I start thicker and get thinner. Boom. It's almost like it comes to a point at the horizon line before you hit that tree line of woods. Now you can add other things into your landscape as well. You can add animals, you can add objects, you can add maybe a bridge or something like that over your river. Maybe I'll add a bridge. And I'm going to think of the season fall or autumn, el otoño in Spanish, because I think the colors of fall are way more fun than the colors of winter, that's for sure. So we have leaves on our tree. We're going to have some color changing. Maybe I have this bridge going across my river here. Maybe I have another bridge going across it here. Do you think this one back here is going to look smaller or bigger than my one here? It's further away, so it's going to look smaller. So I have a little bridge over here. Boom, boom, boom. Then along my sidewalk or the river, I might have some pumpkins. So this pumpkin's in the foreground. It's going to look pretty big. It's even cropped off my page. Maybe I have a pumpkin here in the middle ground, and then a little one off in the background. In the distance, you can barely see it back there. Oh my goodness. But again, just like the trees, if we measured it in real life, it might even be bigger than my foreground tree. You'll just never know because it's further away. It looks smaller. And maybe I'll get a quick deer in here or a squirrel or something. So I'll get a little squirrel up in my foreground. It's got a little acorn. And maybe a deer back here. So if any of you are hunters, I hope you have been spotting some bucks out there this season. Little white-tailed deer, symbol of Michigan. All right. So you can quickly, well, take your time. Don't be as quick as me. Add in some details like that. Now we're going to start adding some color. And we're going to use the markers, but we're not going to color it in a traditional way. We're going to color it by using lines. So you just got to trust and believe in me here. I'm not leading you astray. We're going to get our technique. By the end, you'll see what I'm talking about. So again, this foreground tree, I'm going to use the bark. So I'm starting with brown. We're going to just outline it quick in brown, because tree bark is brown. So I got my branches. And then bark also has texture too. So texture is a nice element of design. Does tree bark have smooth texture or kind of a rough, bumpy texture? Some trees have a smoother texture, but this tree is deciduous, which means it has the leaves, so it's got a rougher bark. I'm going to just make some squiggle lines. I'm like shaking as I do it to make a rough texture. It almost looks like if you felt that, it would be the rough, crinkly bark. I'm going to add real quick a little hole with an owl in it before I add all my bark, because I like owls. Boom. So, rough texture in the bark. And again, because this is the foreground tree, my lines are going to be thicker and closer together. You'll understand in a little bit. So, I fill in my bark. Then on my middle ground tree, you're going to have medium-sized texture marks. So I'll outline again, but my texture marks are going to be a little further apart, a little smaller, a little skinnier, medium. All right. And then for our one in the foreground, do you think they're going to be even smaller yet? You got it. So my background one, I'm barely even touching to the paper. Boom. For my water here, I'm going to use different blues, cool colors for the water. Maybe I got a light blue, a little teal, a little dark blue. We're going to make some wavy lines, but again, they're going to be thicker and closer together, closer in the foreground, and get skinnier and spread out as you go to the background, toward that horizon line. So maybe I got some turquoise waves in the foreground, and then they're going to get skinnier and spread out as I go to the background. I barely touched the paper there. I'll add in some blues. I got my light blues, and I got my dark blues. So again, thicker and closer together in the foreground, spread out as you get toward the horizon line. It's getting lighter, it's further away. My old eyes can't see it. Maybe I'll add some brown texture to my bridges as well. Again, less color the further away. My sidewalk, maybe I'll make it sandy tan. Again, more color and thicker lines closer together. For the grass, you're going to use a variety of greens. Dark green, kind of a sage green. And our lines, once again, are going to be thicker and closer together in the foreground, in the front, near the bottom. And then as you get toward that horizon line, they'll be nice and thin and further apart. So I'll get the tuft of grass first. So I got nice thick lines. About partway through at the middle ground, I'm going to get further apart and thinner. And then once I get up toward the horizon line, I'm very thin and spread out. See how it goes darker, thicker, skinnier, lighter. It's like value, changing. Maybe I'll add some of the sage green too. Boom. I won't do it all, so you don't have to watch me do the whole thing. Like I said earlier, we're going to be kind of like fall or autumn, so I want to use some different colors in the leaves. Some of the leaves might still be green, but again, I'm just going to make like little rectangle dashes for leaves. I'm not drawing every single leaf. I'm just kind of being like an impressionist here. So I'll add a few red marks. Some other colors of leaves that you might see in the fall, I think there's some yellow ones. I think there's some orange ones. you can kind of pick. And if you want them all to be green, you can be green. You don't have to be fall like me. But I like the fall. Maybe you have the like raspberry, the deeper red for this tree. Again, middle ground, they're not as close together. They're not as big rectangle dashes. I'll put some green ones in too. So they're more spread out. And then for the background tree, they'll be even more spread out. Same as your tree line in the back. Spread those out. For the tree line in the back, I might make some of it yellow. And then some of them red. Man, if those red and yellows mix together, what color do you think you'd get? I think it'd make orange. All right, a few greens too. You get the idea. Then for the sky is going to be darker at the top, because think of the top as closest to you. Like when you're outside, the sky right above your head is closer to you than the sky way off in the distance by the horizon line. So we're going to use our blues and make thicker lines up at the top, because that is the foreground of the sky closest to you. So thicker lines at the top, and then it's going to get thinner and more spread out as you hit the horizon line. But you know what? I want to kind of make a sunset. So I might make a sun here over the tree line, and I might have some yellow. I might even have some pink or orange in the sunset. But again, it's spread out near the horizon. And darker up at the top. I'll get some light blue in there too. Alright, let's say we filled the whole paper with lines and colors, and it's getting lighter as it gets further away at the horizon line. Once it's gotten lighter, you're going to use water, plain old water, and a brush. So we're going to turn our marker into paint. Amazing. So, get my brush wet. Let's say I'm going to do our little river first. So I'm going to start in the background at the horizon line. I'm going to spread out that little bit of blue, and then I'll reload my water, and then as I get into the foreground, that water is going to get darker and brighter because I had thicker lines that were closer together. Boom, it looks like I have value now. I'm going to rinse my brush because I'm going into a new area. So I have a clean brush again. So I'm going to just kind of go over my marker. Uh-oh, I got a little brown in there. If you get a little brown or other color, you can get a little paper towel and dab it up. I didn't come prepared. But then as I reload my brush, look at how much darker it's getting in the foreground than at the background. It looks like it's getting lighter back there. Show you a few more things. So, wet brush. Now I'm in my brown texture of the tree. Look at how that's spreading out. I'm getting a nice dark brown. You still see some of that texture. Some of it's going away. Well, when it's dry, you can add some of that back in. But again, my marker's turning into paint. So because my lines were further apart, my brown bark is going to be lighter in the background than it is here in the foreground. Now I'll show you the leaves and maybe some of the sky too. So when you blend all those colors in your leaves, you get nice fall, autumn leaves. I'll show you the raspberry mixed with the green here. Ooh, I like that. I love fall trees because they can all be unique and different. Then I'm going to start with the sunset because I'm starting with the lighter colors at the horizon line. I'll get my sun, rinse. Some of that sunset, I'm blending some of the yellow, pink, and orange. And then as I get up toward my foreground, or the sky right above our head, it's going to get a lot darker, doesn't it? Because those lines were closer together. So I'm going to let that dry. And once it's dry, you can add more details back in. So here's a finished one of mine. So once it's dry, you can go back in, you can add a few more details. You can add some texture in the grass. This one I had some sunflowers, My pumpkins are orange here, bigger ones in the foreground, smaller in the background, medium in the middle ground. I went back and added more texture in the bark of the trees. This one is before I've added more texture and more marker. So this is just after the water and paint dries. Well, the paint that you turned into paint with water and marker. And then I started to go back in down here. I had like a snail and a turtle crossing the sidewalk. So once it's dry, you can go back in with marker details and kind of up the craftsmanship a bit. But again, start with pencil light, use washable markers, then just clean water and a brush will get you the effects that you want for atmospheric perspective. Lighter and less detailed, and smaller in the background by the horizon line. Bigger, bolder, brighter, thicker lines and thicker color in the foreground closest to you. So the top, foreground of the sky, bottom, foreground of the grass and land, and then once it gets closer to the middle, it lightens up, it gets fuzzier details, and it's further away, smaller. So rewind, pause, do your thing. Hopefully this helps you understand atmospheric perspective, and if you go outside, you can even look into nature and try to find things that are in the foreground, middle ground, and background, and understand what a horizon line is and all of this new vocabulary. You are well on your way to being a professional artist. Keep up the good work.